Hello, welcome back. This is Key Philosophies, and I am Ramoon. I'm here to initiate you in Franz Bardon's Initiation into Hermetics. I suggest reading or listening to the first part of this before progressing through this to know the definitions of the material and physical plane and so forth. So let us continue, viewer. Part 2, Practice. Let us now turn to the practical side of the initiation. We must always be aware of the fact that the body, soul, and mind are to be trained simultaneously, for otherwise it would be impossible to gain and maintain the magical equipoise. In the theoretical part, I already called attention to the dangers possibly arising from one-sided training. It is not advisable to hasten development because everything needs time, patience, and perseverance and tenacity are fundamental conditions of the development. The pains taken in one's development will be amply rewarded. Whoever is willing to enter the magical path should regard it as his sacred duty to practice regular exercises. He ought to be kind, generous, and tolerant with his fellow men, but relentless and hard with himself. Only such behavior will be followed by success in magic. Refrain from condemning or criticizing, and sweep your own doorstep first. Do not permit anyone to look into your sanctuary. The magician will always keep silence with respect to his way, rise, and success. This silence grants the highest powers, and the more this commandment is obeyed, the more easily and accessible these powers will become. Manage it so that you spend as much time as possible in your rise or advance. It is quite unnecessary to waste your time sitting for hours drinking beer and passing time in trivial company. Time is running away like water, never to return. A certain amount of time ought to be provided for, but it is very necessary to stick to it. Exceptions ought to be allowed for only in quite inevitable cases. Man is subject to habits, and once accustomed to a defined timetable for his exercises, he will feel compelled to do his exercises. In the same way as there is a want for the necessities of life, such as eating, drinking, and sleeping, it ought to happen in regard to exercises which must, as it were, become a habit. This is the sole way to attain a sure and full success. There is no prize without diligence. It is my ambition to arrange for the instructions as if they were meant for the busiest man. He who has plenty of time of hand may be able to occupy it with 2 or more exercises at the same time. Magical and mental training, thought control, discipline of thoughts, and subordination of thoughts. Take a seat in a comfortable chair, or lie down on a couch or in a bed. Relax the whole body, close your eyes, and observe and train your thoughts for 5 minutes, trying to retain your thoughts. At first, you will find that there are rushing up to you thoughts concerning everyday affairs, professional worries, and the like. Take the behavior of a silent observer toward these train of thoughts freely and independently, according to the mentality and the mental situation you happen to be in at the moment. This exercise will be more or less easy for you. The main point is not to forget yourself, not to lose the train of thoughts, but to pursue it attentively. Beware of falling asleep while doing these exercises. If you begin to feel tired, stop instantly and postpone the exercises to another time, when you intend to not give in to tiredness. The Indians sprinkle cold water on their face or rub down the face and upper parts of their body, like with a brush, for instance, to remain brisk and not waste precious time. Some deep breathing before you begin will also prevent tiredness and sleepiness. There are a number of breathing exercises that I want to go over on the channel: power breathing, full body breathing, and the like. As time goes on, each disciple will find out such little tricks by himself. This exercise of controlling thoughts has to be undertaken in the morning and at night. It is to be extended each day by 1 minute to allow the train of thoughts to be pursued and controlled without the slightest digression for a time of 10 minutes, at least after a week's training. So you want to work your way up. This space of time is destined to the average man. If it should not suffice, everyone can extend it according to his own apperception. In any event, it is advisable to proceed very cautiously because it is of no use to hurry, development being quite individual. On no account go further before the preceding exercise is perfected. The attentive disciple will realize how at the beginning thoughts rush on to, how rapidly they pass before you, so that you will have difficulty to recollect the lot of manifold thoughts. But from one exercise to the next, it will state that thoughts come up less chaotic, moderating little by little, until at last only a few thoughts emerge in his or her consciousness, arriving, as it were, from a far distance. The keenest attention ought to be given to this work of thought control, as it is very important for magic development, a fact that everyone will realize later on. Providing that the mentioned exercise has been thoroughly worked through and everyone has a complete command of it in practice, let us pass over to the mental training. Up to now, we have learned to control our thoughts. The next exercise will consist in not giving way in our mind to thoughts obtruding themselves on our mind, unwanted or obstinate. For instance, we must be able not to occupy ourselves any longer with the tasks and worries of our profession when we come home from work and return to the family circle and privacy. All thoughts not belonging to our privacy must be set aside, and we ought to manage to become quite a different personality. And just the other way around, in our job, all thoughts have to be concentrated in it exclusively, and we must not allow them to digress or wander home to private affairs or elsewhere. This has to be practiced time and time again until it has been developed into a habit. Above all, one ought to accustom oneself to achieving whatever one does with full consciousness, whether in professional work or in private, regardless whether the point is a big one or a trifle one. This exercise should be kept for a lifetime because it is a sharpening of the mind and a strengthening of the consciousness and the memory. Having abstained a certain skill, having obtained a certain skill in this exercise, you may turn to the following one. The purpose will now be to hold on to a single thought or idea for a longer while, and to suppress any other thoughts associating and obtruding with force on the mind. Choose for this purpose any train of thoughts or ideation, or a suitable presentation according to your personal tastes. Hold on to his presentation with all of your strength, your mental strength. Vigorously refuse all the other thoughts that have nothing to do with the thoughts being exercised. At first, you probably will succeed only for a few seconds. Later on, for minutes. You must manage to concentrate on one single thought and follow it for 10 minutes at least. If you succeed in doing it, you will be fit for a new exercise. Let us then learn how to produce an absolute vacancy of mind. Lie down comfortably on a bed or a sofa, or sit in an armchair and relax your whole body. Close your eyes. Energetically dismiss any thought coming to you. Nothing at all is allowed to happen in your mind. An absolute vacancy of mind must reign. Now hold on to this state of vacancy without digressing or forgetting. At first, you will manage to do so for only a few seconds, but by practicing it more often, you will surely succeed to be better at it. The purpose of the exercise will be attained if you succeed in remaining in this state for a full 10 minutes without losing your self-control or even falling asleep. Carefully enter your success, failure, duration of your success, and eventual disturbances into a magic notebook. See the detail under the heading Magic Soul Training. Such a diary will be useful to check your progress. The greater the scrupulousness you use in doing so, the more easily you will undergo all the other exercises. Prepare a working schedule for the coming day or week, and most of all, indulge in self-criticism. Now on to magic psychic training, introspection, or self-knowledge. In our own mansion, meaning our body and our soul, we must find our way about at every moment. Therefore, our first task will be to know ourselves. Each initiation system, no matter which kind it may be, will first put this condition in place. Without self-knowledge, there will be no real development on a higher level. In the first days of psychic training, let us deal with the practical part of introspection or self-knowledge. Arrange for a magic diary and enter all the bad sides of your soul into it. This diary is for your own use only and must not be shown to anybody else. It represents the so-called control book for you. In the self-control of your failures, habits, passions, instincts, and other ugly character traits. You have to observe a hard and severe attitude towards yourself. Be merciless towards yourself and do not embellish any of your failures and deficiencies. Think about yourself in quiet meditation. Put yourself back into different situations of your past and remember how you behaved then and what mistakes or failures occurred in the various situations. Make notes of all your weaknesses, down to your finest nuances and variations. The more you are discovering, all the better for you. Nothing must remain hidden, nothing unrevealed, however insignificant or great your faults or frailties may be. Some, especially endowed disciples, have been able to discover hundreds of failures in the finest shades. Disciples like these possess a good meditation and a deep penetration into their own souls. Wash your soul perfectly clean. Sweep all the dust off of it. This self-analysis is one of the most important magic preliminaries. Magic of the occult systems have neglected it, and this is why they did not achieve good results. The psychic preliminary work is indispensable to obtain the magic equilibrium, and without it, there is no regular progress of the development to be thought of. Therefore, you ought to devote some minutes of time to self-criticism in the morning and at night. If you have got the chance of some free moments during the day, avail yourself of them and do some intensive thinking, whether there are still some hidden faults anywhere. And if you discover them, record them on the spot so as not to forget them. Whenever you happen to find out any deficiency, do not delay and take note of it. Within a week, you do not succeed in discovering all your faults, spend another on these inquiries until you have definitely established your list of offenses. Having achieved this problem within 1 or 2 weeks, you have reached the point to begin with a further exercise. Now, by intensive thinking, try to assign each fault to one of these 4 elements. Appoint a rubric in your diary to each element and enter your faults into it. You will not feel sure of which elements some of the faults are to be assigned. Record them under the heading of indifferent in the progressing development. You will be able to determine the element corresponding to your deficiency. For instance, you will ascribe jealousy, hatred, vindictiveness, irascibility, and anger to the fiery element. Frivolity, self-presumption, boasting, squandering, and gossiping to the element of air. Indifference, laziness, frigidity, compliance, negligence, shyness, insolence, and instability to the watery element. Laziness, lack of conscience, melancholy, irregularity, anomaly, dullness, and the element to the element of earth. In the following week, you will meditate on each single rubric, dividing it into 3 groups. In the first group, you will enter the biggest failures, especially those that influence you the strongest or happen at the slightest opportunity. So the things that come easy. The second group will embrace faults occurring less frequently and in slighter degree. In the last group, you are recording those faults that happen only now and again. Go on doing so with the indifferent faults. 2. Work consciously at all times is worth its while. Repeat the whole procedure with your good physical qualities, as you did with your bad ones, entering them into the respective categories of the elements. Do not forget the 3 columns as here as well. For example, you will assign activity, enthusiasm, firmness, courage, and daring to the fiery element. Diligence, joy, dexterity, kindness, lust, and optimism to the air. Modesty, abstemiousness, fervency, compassion, tranquility, tenderness, and forgiveness to the watery element, and respect, endurance, conscientiousness, thoroughness, sobriety, punctuality, and responsibility to the earth element. By doing so, you will get 2 so-called psycho mirrors, one black with the evil qualities, and one white with all the good qualities and noble characteristics. These 2 magic mirrors are correct occult mirrors, and none but the owner has any right to look into them at all. Let me repeat once more that the owner must endeavor to elaborate his magic mirrors precisely and conscientiously. If in the course of the development he should remember any good or bad qualities, he can still record it under the respective heading. These 2 magic mirrors will allow the magician to recognize rather exactly which of the elements is prevailing in his black or white mirror. This recognition is absolutely necessary to attain the magic equipoise and to the further development. Magic physical training. The material or carnal body. Hand in hand with the inner development of the spirit and the soul has to go that of the outer, the body also. No part of your ego must lag behind or be neglected. Right in the morning, after getting up, you will brush your body with a soft brush until your skin turns faintly reddish. As I've read in Eastern usage of that, you want to brush towards the heart. By doing so, your pores will open and be able to breathe more freely. Besides, the kidneys are exonerated for the most part. Then wash your whole body, or the upper part of it at least, with cold water and rub it with a rough towel until you feel quite warm. Sensitive people may use lukewarm water, especially in the cold season. This procedure ought to become a daily routine and be kept for a lifetime. It is so refreshing and removes tiredness. In addition to this, you should practice morning gymnastics at least for some minutes a day to keep your body flexible. Gymnastic exercise as everyone can draw it up according to his age and personal liking. So drop your own program according to your this is a model, so to speak. So what matters is most of it is to keep your body elastic. The mystery of breathing. Breathing is to be given your full, careful consideration. Normally, each living creature is bound to breathe. There is no life at all without breathing. It is obvious that a magician ought to know more than the mere fact of inhaling oxygen and nitrogen, which the lungs absorb and exhale as carbon dioxide and nitrogen. The lungs cannot exist without breathing and food. All we need for our life and what preserves our life, to wit, breathing and food is tetrapolar. 4 elements plus a fifth, the vital element or the Akasha principle, as we have said in the theoretical part about the elements. But the air we are breathing has a finer degree of density than the grossly material food has. According to the universal laws, both of them have the same nature, being tetrapolar, and serving to keep the body alive. Let us therefore return to breathing. Oxygen is subject to the fiery element, and nitrogen to the element of water, or nitrogen to air, hydrogen to water. The airy element is the mediating element, and the earth element, carbon, or carbon dioxide, is that which holds together the oxygen and the nitrogen. The Akasha or the etheric element is the lawful, causal, or divine principle, just as in the great universe of nature. Here, the elements too have their polarity, the electric as well as the magnetic fluid, by normal or unconscious breathing. The body is supplied only with as much elemental substance as is necessary for its normal preservation. Here, also, the supply depends on the consumption of elemental substance. It is quite different with conscious breathing. If we put a thought, an idea, or an image, no matter whether it's concrete or abstract, in the air to be inhaled, it will take in the Akasha principle of the air concerned and convey it through the electric and magnetic fluids to the air substance. This impregnated air will play a double role when it is conveyed to the lungs through the blood vessels. In the first place, the material parts of the elements are destined to preserve the body. Secondly, the electromagnetic fluid charged with the idea or the image will lead the electromagnetic air colored with the idea from the bloodstream through the astral matrix to the astral body, and from there to the immortal spirit through the reflective mental matrix. And this is the solution of the secret of breathing from the magic point of view. Many theologists utilize conscious breathing for instructive purposes, as for example the Hatha Yoga system. Without knowing the right process, several people have suffered severe damage to their health, a fact only to blame in the extreme breathing exercises asked for by this system, especially when such practices have been realized without the guidance of an experienced leader or guru. In most cases, the inexperienced leader has been persuaded to do these exercises because they were promised a quick acquisition of occult powers. If he wants, the magician can achieve this aim much more easily and sooner with the aid of universal initiating systems described so thoroughly in this present book. Yeah, I'll teach you guys power breathing too, but yeah, you should go through this stuff. And Falun Gong too, I think it's relatable. I think it's just a different perspective on the same thing, an Eastern, Western cross reference to using these powers. So, consequently, it is quite evident that it is not the quantity of inhaled air that matters, but the quality, respecting the idea impregnated in the air substance. Therefore, it is not necessary or even advisable to pump the lungs full with a lot of air, putting a needless strain on them. Consequently, you will do your breathing exercises slowly and calmly without any haste. Sitting down comfortably, relax the whole body and breathe in through the nose. Imagine that with the inhaled air, health, tranquility, peace, success are everything you are aiming at, will pass into your body through the lungs and the blood. The eidetic image of your idea must be so intense that the air you are inspiring is so strongly impregnated with your desire that it has already become your reality. You should not allow the slightest doubt about this fact. To avoid weakening, it will be enough to start with 7 inhalations in the morning, as well as the night. Increase the number of breaths gradually to 1 more in the morning and at night. Do not hurry or exaggerate, for everything needs time. In any case, you should not practice to the imagination of another different desire before the first chosen one has been completely accomplished. In a pupil endowed with talents of a high order, success will manifest itself, at the earliest after 7 days, all depending on the degree of the imagination and aptitude. Someone else will need weeks, even months, for realization of his desires, because these kinds of desires will also play an important role. It is therefore desirable not to form egotistic wishes to begin with, but to confine them to the above mentioned ones, such as tranquility, health, peace, and success. Do not extend breathing exercises to more than 1/2 of an hour. Later on, a standard 10 minutes will do. Conscious reception of food. What has been said about breathing applies in the same way to taking nourishment. Here also the same elemental processes are going on as they happened to do in the air being inhaled, but the effect of the elements is stronger and more material. Desires impressed on food have a considerable influence on the material plane, where they are exposed to the most material emanations of the elements. Therefore, the magician will do well to consider this aspect if he wants to achieve anything concerning his body or other material desires. Now sit down in front of your dish of food that you are going to eat, and with the most intense imagination possible, concentrate your desire being embodied in the food and as effective as if indeed it had already been realized. If you happen to be alone, undisturbed, and not watched by anyone, hold your hands in a blessing manner above your food. Not having this opportunity, at least impress your desire upon the food you are taking in, or close your eyes. You may give the impression of saying a prayer before eating your meal, a gesture that is quite true, as a matter of fact. Then eat your food slowly, but conscientiously, with the intrinsic conviction that together with your food, your desire actually is passing into your whole body, down to the finest nerves. The taking of food ought to be a sacred act to you, similar to the communion of Christianity. For the magic constitution, it is not advisable to eat in a hurry. All kinds of food and beverage are suitable for the magic impregnation with desires. Yet all impregnated foods and drinks have to be consumed entirely, and nothing should be left over. Do not read during a meal. Unfortunately, a great many people are in this bad habit. Any kind of conversation is also undesirable. One should eat only with the maintenance of one's desires. It is to be noted that no opposite desire should be associate. For instance, if you are aspiring after health through conscious or magic breathing, you must not concentrate on success during your meal. It is most advantageous to foster the same desire in breathing as well as eating to avoid any opposite vibration or emanations in your body. Remember the proverb, he who chases two hares at the same time will not catch one. Whoever in the conscious reception of food takes example in the Eucharistic mystery will find an analogy to it here. And remember the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, take and eat, for this is my flesh. Take and drink, for this is my blood. He will seize their true and primary meaning. Now remember, this is an initiate understanding. So if you're not that, you might be even taking that the wrong way. The magic of water. Water plays one of the most important parts, not only in daily life, being absolutely indispensable for drinking, preparing food, washing, producing steam in factories, but also in our magic development. The water element may prove to be a great factor, as we have already stated in the theoretical chapter. The watery element rules magnetism, or the attractive force, and it is just this property that we shall utilize in the development of our faculties. All the books dealing with the animal magnetism, emanation of ode, and so on are acquainted with the fact that water can be magnetized or odized. But it is far less known how to enlarge this quality or use it in a different way. Not only water, but every kind of liquid has a special property of attracting, and according to the contraction, holding fast, no matter whether good or bad, influences be concerned. Therefore, we may consider the watery element, especially the material kind of it, as an accumulator. The colder the water is, the greater its accumulative capacity, with its full specific weight, namely at 39 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Celsius above zero. It is most responsive. This notion is not so decisive for the difference of receptivity of water or other liquids up to 43 degrees Fahrenheit or 6 degrees Celsius above zero is so insignificant and so faintly visible that only a thoroughly trained magician can recognize these differences. If by increase of heat water grows lukewarm, its receptivity rapidly diminishing. Between 7 and 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 36 and 37 degrees Celsius, I think it might be saying 97 degrees to 99 degrees Fahrenheit and 36 to 37 degrees Celsius, it becomes neutral to magnetism. Attention! Here, our only concern is with the specific properties of the attractive power and its practical value with respect to magnetism, which results from the interaction of the elements as an undeniable matter of fact. The impregnation through the Akasha principle presents in each substance and consequently in physical water too, with a desire can be operated in any object and at any temperature whatsoever. A piece of bread as well as a hot soup or a cup of coffee or tea might be loaded or charged magnetically. But this charge does not depend on the accumulative capacity of the water element, but takes place through the causal principle of the fifth power of the elements, and is brought about by the electromagnetic fluid of the elements concerned. It is important to pay attention to this difference to avoid errors. For instance, it is quite impossible to magnetize a dish of hot soup because the accumulating power of the water element is balanced or increased by the expansion of the heat present in the water if it rises above 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 39 degrees Celsius. The soup, however, can be impregnated with the corresponding desire. Now let us regard the magic of water from the practical side. Every time you are washing your hands, think intensely that by washing, not only do you wipe off the dirt off your body, but also the uncleanness from your soul. Think of failure and trouble and dissatisfaction, that dark mirror, illness and the like being washed off and turned over to the water. If possible, wash yourself under the tap so that the dirty water can also run off immediately. And at this moment, think that your weaknesses are flowing off with the water. If you have nothing but a wash bowl at your disposal, do not forget to throw away the used water immediately. Nobody else can contact this water. If you can also dip your hands into the cold water for a little while and concentrating on the magneto-astral attractive force drawing all weakness out of your body and your soul. Be firmly convinced that all your failures are passing into the water. You will be surprised at the success of this exercise. After a short time, this water also is to be thrown away at once. This exercise is extraordinarily effective if you can manage it in the summer while bathing in a river, when the whole body, except for the head, of course, is beneath the water. You can do this exercise the other way around also by magnetizing the water you are going to use or by impregnating it with your desire, remaining firmly convinced that through washing the power will pass into your body and the desire will be realized. He who has time to spare can combine both exercises by stripping off all evil in one water, say under a tap or in a separate basin, and then washing himself in another basin with the water impregnated with his desire. In this case, namely the first exercise, you have to use soap when washing off the evil. Female adepts have a third opportunity besides the two aforementioned possibilities. They will concentrate their magnetism on the fact that the water makes the face and skin look much younger, more elastic, and more attractive. It is therefore advisable not only to wash the face, but to dip the whole face into water for some seconds. This procedure is to be repeated at least 7 times in one turn. A bit of borax may be added to the water. There is a further opportunity given to the magician that ought not to be overlooked. I mean the magnetic eye bath. In the morning, the magician dips his face into the water that has been boiled on the previous day, using a half-filled water basin, and opens his eyes in the water. He rolls his eyes in the water repeatedly, this exercise equally 7 times in each direction. At first he will have the sensation of a slight stinging in his eyes, but this first will disappear as soon the eyes get accustomed to the exercise. Anyone suffering from weakness in eyesight may add a thin decoction of eye bright, herba euphrasia, to the water. This eye bath makes the eyes resistant against changes in the weather and consequently strengthens the visual faculty, improving weak vision. The eyes become clear and shining. Do not forget respectively to magnetize the water destined for this purpose and to impregnate it with your concentrated wish. Advanced pupils who are training for clairvoyance are offered the opportunity here to promote their clairvoyant faculties. That is all for the moment about the material development and training of the body. We have a summary of the exercises of step 1. We have thought control, discipline of thoughts, subordination of thoughts, control of thoughts twice a day from 1 to 10 minutes, suppression of certain thoughts, holding on to chosen thoughts, provoking, vacancy of mind, magical diarizing, self-criticism, planning of thought trains for the day or the week. So planning ahead, having a itinerary. Magic psychic training, introspection of self-knowledge, making of the black and white mirrors of the soul with respect to the elements in the 3 spheres of activity. Magic physical training, habituation to normal or reasonable mode of life, conscious breathing, conscious reception of food, the Eucharistic mystery, magic of water. The time limit for the completion of these exercises is fitted from a fortnight up to 1 month and is meant for people of average aptitude. Those who have already practiced concentration and meditation should get along in this space of time. Those who are not yet experienced will have to extend their training periods. Success depends chiefly on the individuality of the pupil. For the practice, it would be useless for him to pass from one step to the next without having completed the foregoing one. Otherwise, just set yourself up, really. All right. Next will be autosuggestion, or the secret of the subconscious. But I think that might be enough for now. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me. It's been a good talk, viewer. Thanks for hanging out. Give me a like and a subscribe if you're still here. Maybe I'll make shorter videos out of these longer videos. I don't know. They're there. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Have a great day.